a long day will be.
Take a seat.
Take me, yes.
Park yourself.
I can't even sit in a chair. I have to go to the wrong side of the chair because, as you know, some of you know, I can't see very well. It's also that I have no periphery, so I never know how close I am to things.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask how can you have
Well,
a
if I
wrong
want
side
to
of
know
the
what
chair?
you look like, watch this. Right, this is what I used to do to see if I fancied a boy. Because if you couldn't see, and if you wore glasses in my day, you know, you were called all sorts of like four eyes and bottle top, and I got so used to that. But then I learned this little trick. La 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 la. Oh!
I think I'm cold.
Except once I did do it, and I wrote this in a play, Not a Well Woman, because it's true. So I'm completely deaf in this ear as well. I'm really doing well. I can't see, I can't hear. But I did actually pick up a crab dip. And I dropped that, and it landed on his shoes. And I was, you know, and I'm at this star-filled Hollywood party, and I've just thrown crab dip all over this man's shoes while I go into his face like that. Not a good look.
I'm glad you addressed the, you know, blind elephant in the room, because it meant I didn't have to mention it, other than, I do remember the last time you went to the Gallifrey 1 convention, we were on the same flight out, and it was one of these...
Were we?
Yeah, we were. It's one of these things where you sort of sat at the gate, and you're looking around, and it's like, you look up and it's like, oh look, there's Bonnie Langford, you can recognise that hair anywhere, and then I turn around and it's like, oh, there's Katy Manning, and you're looking at your phone. And I swear I have never seen somebody have their size settings on a phone set quite so low. You could literally read your phone halfway across the air.
You know what happened? Am I supposed to use a microphone? Because I can't hear. I mean, and I've also got a very loud voice. So should I be...
Either microphone works. They can hear us on these or those.
Oh, good, because I hate those. Well, you can't do things, can you? How can you do it? And I'm not a still woman.
Not a still woman.
Not a still woman. But this is absolutely true. Just after COVID, it was still really big in Australia. I mean, really big. I'm making it sound like a movie. Oh, very movie. Anyway, it was still very, very ripe in Australia. And they didn't have, getting a test kit. If I'd taken test kits over, I could have made a fortune. I could have been walking around Sydney going, you want to buy a cheap test kit? I'd have made more money than the crack sellers. So, anyway, then I got to the airport, and for some reason, they asked me, I must put my freedom pass away, otherwise I should be in rat strap, wouldn't I? Can't lose that again. They told me I lose too many of them. I said, well, what do you expect when you give it to old people? Get it for it. Anyway, so I went to get on the flight, and they asked me if I had something, which I always put everything on my phone so I can just show people stuff, because I don't take much notice. You know, people say, where are you changing? I say, I don't know where they told me to get off. You know, I mean. Anyway, so they looked, and suddenly this lady leaned across and very genteelly said, do you have sight problems? Because I forget that my writing is, you know, like one letter a
screen, yeah, literally.
and so I kind of, because I'm always so used to dealing with them, I went, yes, you know, ready to laugh. And next thing I know, there's a little man standing there with a wheelchair. And I said, I can walk. Anyway, but I kind of felt, you know, being an actor, the moment I realized I had an even worse sight problem, I suddenly became Helen Keller. I'm like walking along the walls like this. And then I realized they don't leave your side. You can't go off and do any shopping without them. I thought, I don't like this. It was like when I was confined to a wheelchair. It's not me. You know, all those years that I had to deal with that. Anyway, so I get on the plane, and there was a guy, and he came up and he said, oh my goodness, Kate, he said, I really looked at his notes, and he said, I didn't realise your eyes were that bad. I said, neither did I. Because I hadn't been able to say to them yet, I'm okay. Next thing I know, the lady comes up, sorry, this is all a bit naughty, but it's true. The lady comes up and she said, excuse me, Miss Manning, she said, but do you read Braille? And I sat there very tightly and I said, oh, it's all right, I've read everything. So I had a 23-hour, because it was COVID, they put us on the straight-through flight to Darwin. I was going to, and they said, you mustn't walk up and down the aisle too much because of COVID. Well, can you imagine me sitting still for 23 hours? And they had no in-flight entertainment for some reason. 23 hours of being Helen Keller, right? And so, but then they must have thought, I also had a bladder problem, because I thought, there's only one way I can keep walking, and that's to the loo. Anyway, just thought I'd share. That's one of my many flights that I've had situations.
I was sat about 5 rows behind the area you were, so whenever the curtain would open, it was kind of like that, and we could see you holding court with like Tim Trelaw.
No, I wasn't holding court. I'll tell you.
What would you call it?
Should we say that Tim had a drinky poo?
Yes.
And so what I was doing, because I've had twins, I've been right through all that, and I was all around in the 60s. So I was there just playing along with dear Tim, who was having a lovely time. And I adore him.
You've just come back from the Doctor Who proms.
Yes, I was there all night. Yeah, I have. It was wonderful. I mean, I've been before.
Yeah.
But what, I don't know, really, I was meeting someone for dinner, and I arrived at the Albert Hall.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I walked around the corner, and there was these groups of the most gorgeous looking children, well, teenagers, and that was it. So, and my phone keeps ringing saying, we've got a dinner date, we've got dinner again. And I thought, what's more important, food or these beautiful fans? The fans won. Restaurant, we didn't have time. I had, I think, 2 chips, because people were coming up, and they were so sweet and so polite, saying, oh, I'm awfully sorry, do you mind if, and so on. And then the pudding arrived, and we had to go because they wanted to do an interview for the BBC with Murray Gold and things, and so I never got any food, but as I say, fans are way more important than food. It was wonderful. The only drawback for me was I didn't see a lot of the things that were happening, but I decided, wouldn't it be great to have the Welsh Symphony Orchestra, Philharmonic Symphony, in my living room, and just these clips going up on the screen like that. It was a fabulous way of watching the highlights of the whole season of Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not one I've... Anybody in the audience that managed to get to a prom? Yeah. Stick your hands up.
It was good, wasn't it? The only thing was that I did see, because they came down where we were sitting, those poor little Cybermen. They had rather thin silver trousers on, so they were a bit sort of MC Hammer shaped. And then there's this sort of flight of stairs, and they were kind of, and something very unfrightening about a Cyberman in rather silky pants that falls over them.
Could you have imagined, 50 odd years ago, going to the Royal Albert Hall for a concert of music for nothing but this
Can you imagine an evening of the
show.
Sea Devils music? We would all come out of there and we'd need a lot of therapy. My granddaughter, I have put it up on Twitter, but I'm going to put it up again. When she got hold of one of her daddy's a musician, Pickle was still in her nappy, so that, you know, kids look so funny in nappies because they sort of hang down, a bit like trousers are these days. And she was there at his little piano thing, and she was doing, I swear, I put it up there and everybody thought it was a piece from the Sea Devils. But it actually wasn't, it was her. Sorry, I just, the music we have now is, but actually, you know, when I look back, and I don't often, but when I look back and I sort of, you know, think of the kind of extraordinary time that the people who made the music, you know, you're going back to the radiophonic workshop, and you know, we didn't have any of the machinery, and I used to spend a lot of time with these guys, and with Brian Hodgson, who did all the sound effects, and they were running around finding anything they could that would make a sound that sounded vaguely like, you know, it kind of, it should, or, and so it's kind of interesting, because now you've got what I call a film score with it, which will affect your emotions when you're watching it far more deeply. Right? What we relied on was, you know, was this electronic music. And in a strange way, I don't know about you, it sort of belongs. I get where we're going with this extraordinary music and very film score, and it is brilliant music. But somehow, every now and again, I think it would be nice to have something a little bit more otherworldly just thrown in.
I think that's kind of where Sagan actually came back in Ola when he was doing it for Jodie's era.
Yeah.
So, but no, I understand entirely what
But you know, ours came, you know, with somebody sort of rubbing a cabbage up and down a radiator. We didn't have a symphony orchestra. We had all these people with strange things they found in the kitchen drawer.
You said that you don't look back very often.
No,
but
been there, done that.
Yeah, but you know, but the heading on my card is the origin of Katy Manning. What?
I need to talk to my parents. I had nothing to do with me.
Yeah, so where did you grow up?
Grow up? My children are still waiting for that moment. You know, I did something very grown up the other day. I actually, because I don't do, you know, like people buy houses and stuff like that. You know, and then I hear all my friends saying, oh, we've got to have a new roof and that. I just move. Owning a house is so grown up. I owned one for a little bit for about 6 months. And I thought, oh, I can't be doing with all this.
I literally wrote down the words itinerant lifestyle.
Yes, but that comes from my parents as well.
Oh, okay. So did they travel a lot? Or?
Oh, well, yeah, I never knew. I mean, my mother hardly ever knew where Daddy was. She'd suddenly get a phone call one day because he was always trying to change the world, right wrongs. You know, that was what he was doing.
He was a sports journalist come politician?
Well, let's not talk politicians because they're a complete breed of...
Yes.
I'm not going to say anymore. But he was a campaigner.
Right.
And it started campaigning in the sports world.
Okay.
And when he earned his OB, and my grandfather, he came up with a concept of a thing called Sports Report, which goes out every Saturday. And when he came up with the idea, it was who wants to watch sports all day on Saturday? Cut forward, and eventually they called my father and said, we're going to do this. So, you know, that was...
Well, we wouldn't have entire channels of that sort of thing today if it wasn't
so,
for
you
that
know, that
concept.
sort of... But there were also my father was campaigning for women's rights back in the 50s when he was in politics. Also in the 60s, he was campaigning for what we now term as gay rights, for, you know, to be able to marry, to legalize and to make that a very good. So there was a lot of things going on. But, you know, my mother would suddenly, you know, people say, oh, where's Jimmy? And my mother would say, oh, I don't know, darling. Then the phone would ring and she'd say, oh, darling, where are you? And he said, well, I'm in Russia. and my father would come home and my mother would say, where's your suitcase? She said, oh dear, I seem to have forgotten it. And you know, so where a lot of my oddness comes from my father. But so I grew up very much with sort of what we used to call nannies, if you like.
Oh, right.
I loved the one we had once because she had this, oh, she was so gorgeous. She was absolutely beautiful. She looked like one of those sort of 50s singers, you know, the blonde hair was all tacky curvy.
Oh, right.
Oh, I loved that. But yeah, so I grew up very much as a, and my sister was much older than me.
So if your father was in sports journalism and that was kind of the thing you were around, was there any interest in sports for you, or?
Well, with my eyes, it was hard because I remember I was Mummy was sort of, you know, bottle feeding me, centre court Wimbledon. And when I got older, you know, there I was, this little girl, and they didn't know I couldn't see, and all I could hear was ping, pong. And I didn't know where I was, but I learned to do that. Probably the ball going the opposite direction. So no ball sports for me.
No,
but
no. You know,
my mother was an incredible sportswoman. My father was, they all, you know, my sister, no, ballet and horse riding, and I was good at voices because I couldn't see. So sound is my friend. And that's why I go to sleep with the radio and the television on and everything, because I know the world's all right if I can hear voices.
So is that what attracted you then to performing?
No. I just did it. I would sit in the, you know, that's where I discovered that I could make those weird chicken noises. That finally, I think there was an episode, was it on a boat going round and round, twice around the deck?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
What was it?
Carnival of Monsters.
Yeah, and John, we came down and John said, I said, there's chickens. He said, finally. Finally, you can talk to the chickens. So I did. So if you're ever watching that, I am making that sound because you do it, and you can do it smiling or straight face because you do it right down here and nobody knows you're doing it. So I just used to sit around making lots of noises and then I'd hear somebody on the telly and I'd do their voice and so on.
So you just sort of fell into it?
Yeah, I wasn't walking around. You know, you think about it now, not many people walked around in those days saying, I'm going to be an actor.
So did you have a traditional drama education, or?
Well, eventually I went to a tutorial school.
Right.
Miss Dixon and Miss Wolf. There was 11 students, and one of them was my friend, whose mother's very famous. And so my lifestyle went from famous sports people and cricketers and boxers in the house, because my parents would party till 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd be there coming downstairs in my little nightie. And, you know, and then Daddy would say, come on, darling, let's dance. And there I was in my little nightie, and my hair and my little curlers, dancing with my daddy at 5 o'clock in the morning. So then it moved into a very Hollywood lifestyle. So it's been an extraordinary life.
It has.
But I kind of like to, you know, I love just being free. You know, the whole thing of, it was really difficult when I went into the West End and things, and I've been in Doctor Who, and suddenly all this tension around me, and I found it very unsettling.
Oh, okay. Because I could imagine that you had a lot of attention while you were in the show anyway. So what would the difference have been?
Well, yeah, it was just suddenly that it was one of those things where everything I did. Now, I know what it's like now because we have social media. But back then, you'd have journalists following you to see whether you were going out with this person or whether you, and I was being told who I had to go out with, who I was to be seen with. And I'm a very independent woman, you know? And I found that very difficult because also I had seen it living the life I lived with Judy and Liza.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, yeah.
Tell me about when Doctor Who first came into your life. How did that happen? So, what,
You mean, was I somebody sitting at home watching it?
Well, I was going to get to that. Were you familiar with the show?
Not terribly, because first of all you have to imagine, you know, it's very hard for people who are very young to understand how I would have been when you had to pick up a phone and find 4 pence to make a call, where you know, everything that you was covered was in newspapers and magazines, you know, all those things. What's Dolly Joe wearing today? And you kind of get taught to play along with all this, and you know, and like using words like groovy, fab, and far out, you know, and to play into, you know, how Katy keeps her skin looking good, and there's poor Katy trying to manage, you know, zip that way, you know, that sort of thing. Every day there was something in some newspaper, and they'd be ringing up the flat and saying, my housekeeper, Mrs. Cheech, they said, oh, you know, we'd like to speak. Mrs. Cheech said, no, she ain't here. no, she won't be here. And they'd be saying, well, is she going out with this person or that? No, I can't say nothing. So she'd be at my own, you know. But it was something you all know about now, young people. But I had no experience of that other than in the full Hollywood thing. So there I was in a situation which was completely and utterly unexpected. I just thought I'd be lucky if I could ever get to act, let alone have this thing. And I'd done a thing called Man at the Top, and every woman in England really fancied the lead actor in it. So everywhere, you know, so it was a build-up of Doctor Who. But going back to the question, which I do remember, well, you know, we've got to go sideways and for, you know.
Yeah.
I was 16. Now, at 16, in that era, in London, trust me, there were a lot of things I wanted to do. And it wasn't sit at home on a Saturday night watching something. But I did, where did that voice go? Oh, I don't know, it's just comes and goes, isn't it? So, yeah, and also the weird thing is that on the very first time that Doctor Who went out with me in it, on the opposite page, I've actually got the copy because Ray found it for me. He did all the library stuff at the BBC. It's got, you know, da-da-da-da, Katy Manning, John Pertwee, rah, rah, rah. And then on the opposite page it says, the last word, J.L. Manning. So I was immediately along with my father on, you know, which is, I think, rather sweet, you know. He's got an OB, what have I got? I got the best fans in the world. So I watched it and I thought, oh wow, this is such a cool, oh, my hearing just came back. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, I'm out of the tunnel, thank you. It does that, anyway, so I watched it and I thought, oh, this is really groovy. This is like, well, cool, fab, you know, far out, wow, man, this is trippy, right? That's roughly my thinking. And then, of course, you know, I was out, and of course, there was a lot of music and a lot of very, very lovely musicians around there, so I had a lot of things to do. And then, after that, I was in hospital and being sort of remade over 2 years. And back then, in a hospital, they didn't have televisions at the end of your bed and so on. So I didn't get to see anything like that at all. My life was bent on learning how to walk again, having my face.
It was quite a serious car accident, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. I chose the wrong door. I chose the windscreen. No, it was. It was one where they didn't think I would actually walk again. So I was in a wheelchair, and they were teaching me how to play. Can you imagine? Me. They put a ball in my hand and said, we're going to teach you how to play. I said, I can't see the ball. I said, I'm sitting in a chair and you might... And I love shoes, darling, so I was determined I was going to get out of that chair. Hell or high water. And then I had to have a lot of surgery. This whole side of my face The skin has come from various other parts of my body. I'm not going to say anymore because it could sound a bit rude. But kiss my... So I went through that, and then I, you know, time moved on. Then I went to America, and I was offered, without even looking for it, I hadn't thought about acting, although everybody, including Liza, would have said, we all knew. And I was offered a 5-year contract with MGM, and my father said to me, darling, anything you want to do, we'll back you. But if you do that, you will be tied down. They flew my parents out and everything. And I wasn't looking, I was just at a party of my sister, who was a top model in New York. 5'11". What happened? This is what I had to suffer for my whole life, is huge heels. Anyway, so he said, but 5 years you could have a contract and you could do nothing. You could do one, and then you could do 1 movie, but you were tied to that studio for 5 years. And I thought, oh no, I'm a free little soul, me. So I came back and I decided I was going to audition for every drama school, and whichever one took me, got me. And I did that without telling anybody.
Would you encourage, asking for my son, who's a drama student?
I met your son.
Yeah. Would you encourage people into the industry these days, given your own experiences?
I don't think I would encourage or discourage anybody to do anything, because in an industry like this, you know lots of names of lots of actors, and you'll see them in the street and you'll go, oh, that's so-and-so, so-and-so, because you've seen them in a soapie for years.
Yeah.
But you possibly don't realise that it was that many years ago, and that person may not have worked since. It is, without a doubt, you have got to be passionate about it. You have got to be very determined, extremely disciplined. Back in my day, if you were late for the half, which is the amount of time you have before you go, you go into the theatre, and it's called the half, but it's actually a 25 class. More than 3 times, they would fine you. I come from that era. It's a little bit easier now on that level. But you've also got to have that kind of, when my children were really ill, I was sleeping in the hospital, and I was doing a play in the West End stage at night, and then going back and sleeping in the hospital, and not going through the whole process of talking to anybody about what I was doing on stage. It's that kind of, I had my nose broken on stage, and I had to go back on with Gordon Kay, and I got tears running down my face. I am in unbelievable pain, but I had to finish the show.
I mean, there's the whole...
This is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, the show must go on, but, not with a broken heart.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Suddenly stop the show and say to every son, no. I'm like, I'm really sorry, Mom. I mean, my nose has been broken that many times, it's like the inside of a boxer's nose at the moment. But the same actor, that's, because I'm very short-sighted, and I'll tell you how it happened, because there's a double to this story. Tell me if you're fed up with this and you want to know other things. Because I'm sure you have. But I'll just
carry on.
So, I was looking for the cue, which was a visual cue, and it was one of those doors that does that. And I didn't know that he had to come up and do a quick change. So I'm doing that. Oh, I'm so stupid. And I'm doing that, and of course it boom, like that, and I had to go on. And I promise you, I can't tell you what I was going through. Cut forward to about 6 weeks later, I'm working with the same actor. And we had to do a stage fight, right? And it was in a blackout, and I had to have a balaclava, which I probably had the wrong way around, knowing that I probably had the eyeballs were back. And then, because I wasn't allowed to, he had the gun with the blank in it, and we had to fight on the floor, and then the gun had to be rested, and everybody would be going, oh, I wonder which one died, right? Well, I placed it there instead of there. He shot it. I went off like Igor. and smoke is coming out the inside of the I mean, and my friends who I was staying with, and I've still got a little tiny, because it burns the skin really badly, so I've got this little black kind of, and because it was the same actor, my friend said to him, they said, "You should have told us that you didn't like her. She's living with us, we could have poisoned her." So you've got to really, but as far as your son is concerned, he will do it. If the thing about acting, if you really want to do it, you will do it, come hell or high water. You will go through, you know, you're going to have to put up with people, you know, not feeling good enough, not getting the job, going up against, you know, nowadays you've got yourself tapes to do, which I'm a rebel, I won't do them.
We were having the conversation in the green room about self.
Do you know what they do? They said to me, if it was for something really wonderful, I'd think about it. But I'm not. A friend of mine was asked, would you go down to Lidl and see if you could borrow one of their jackets? So that, excuse me? And then they said to me one day, they said, my agent said, oh, well, they want you to make your living room look like an air terminal. Well, what are these people doing? What are these casting people doing? No, Rebel Granny will not be, you know, if they look at the show reel and say, no, she's totally wrong, fine. But to put people through this, and then you can find out they don't always watch them.
No, I literally just had this conversation with somebody today who was saying that, you know, they do these self-tapes, send them off, get the notification whether it's been downloaded and watched, and don't get the notification. It's, you know, they've gone through that, and nothing has actually been even looked at.
It's a disgrace, and it started in lockdown, and now it's been carried too far. And you know what else they're doing? They're giving you lessons at the Spotlight on how to like yourself. Excuse me? No, truly. But I will say this, if I was in the now of the age of your son, it wouldn't, oh look, I'm molting. that was stress, wasn't it? I had at least I think it's mine. Anyway, I don't know what to do with it now.
Save it. We can auction it later.
No,
Can we close it?
sorry. Little things amuse me so much. But no, so I think if I was in the world that you're all in now, it would be a totally different thing because it would be all I knew. But I've reached the point now where I enjoy being a rebel granny. You know, because I've got to that age now when I say things that are a little bit naughty or a little bit, you know, on the edge. Just a tad.
I've listened to Not a Well Woman. I know some of the things you say, and I wasn't expecting that.
I have a very strange brain. It works in mysterious ways. I mean, it's always kind of, I don't do things, I see pictures. And that's why I think I laugh a lot.
Not everybody may know this, but are you somebody who has an inner monologue, or are you somebody who like you say, thinks more visually?
I think visually. I mean, when I write, you know, when I wrote the short story for the Origins book,
right?
I didn't get the memo for that, did I? Because apparently they were thrilled, but they asked me to do another one, and I said, well, you realise that I always write. I didn't know what you wanted, so I just write my own way, and they said that's why we loved it, because it was so different. I see pictures when I write, and then I write from the pictures. When I wrote Not a Well Woman, I see the picture before I get, the words come from the pictures. Because then you get that kind of, you get onomatopoeia, you start to be able to see words, and it becomes a painting rather than something where the thoughts have come from here. They've come from seeing what the picture looks like, what it sounds like, what the colours are. Does that sound a bit weird? But that's how I.
No,
that's how I think all the time.
It sounds different because I'm a more traditional internal monologue person. But I only found out relatively recently that not everybody has this little voice in their head.
Well, if I had a little voice in my head, I'd be telling you to just shut up all the time.
Yes, exactly right.
Oh my goodness sake, shut up, Katy.
So, do you have a preference for your media, so television, film, theatre,
I'm a
radio?
television addict.
Yeah?
I'm unashamedly a television addict, and late at night, I radio 4 Extra.
What, are you somebody who binge watches?
No, I don't binge watch because no. I can't sit down and watch 14 episodes or something and lose, no, I don't have that concentration.
What about like something you really like and it's all there so you can do like one a day?
No, I can't live like that. I never know what's going to happen. From one minute to the next minute, I don't, plans and things, plans can lead to disappointment. you know when you make a master plan, you think, pardon me, pun. Look into my eyes. Mary had a little laugh. No. When you kind of work out how things are, if we try and project our thinking into the future, I always think there lies the way of slight disappointment. Because the extraordinary and the wonderful thing and the exciting thing about life is that it's an adventure. Because if we don't know what's going to happen, that's the only way you can have an adventure. You can't have an adventure if you know what's going to happen.
I mean, your life.
It's weird, I know, but you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
How many times have you put this all down in your diary and then you get the phone call, oh, I can't make it tonight. So
Your life has been very much a roller coaster, if you like. You've lived in so many different places, and
yeah, just in case they find me, I keep moving. You see the bag I have here right now? Why people will say, why have you always got a bag? Because I say, I never know where I'm going to end up.
I'd say, so London, LA, Sydney.
New York.
Okay.
I lived in New York on and off over the years.
Okay, so out of the 4 cities, which do you
London.
like? London's the best.
London, yeah. Look, Australia is beautiful. I am so grateful to that country. I had a hell of a career there, which I forget about because, I suddenly think, I've directed at the Opera House, I've played it several times, I had my own chat show over there. Yeah, I did a massive, voicing, I was animation and so on and so forth. I had the most incredible time there. Going right into the outback with me and Jezebel, which was a true story about Betty Davis, where I played 9 people on stage. And taking that, instead of being in the West End with your name in lights, which I had several times, I was there in the middle of absolutely nowhere, in a tin shack, and people would drive for about 2 hours, and they would bring food and candles and things like that, and I did a show. And they'd say, oh, we've never seen a show before where somebody talks and talks in so many voices. And we've had country and western music, and we've had we had the Irish dancing. That was lovely, but we've never had a little girl get out there and talk in voices. But this was so exciting to me because I was taking to theatre to people who've never seen it. The West End, it's great. Yes, aren't I lucky? I am very proud of what I achieved there. But this was something just so wonderful for me to do. It made me so happy to be able to take theatre to people who haven't had it before. It's like using the business, like with when people say what's the best thing that's come out of Doctor Who. And I truly, I don't want this, I'm very current with the vernacular, I don't want this to be ick, but, oh yeah, I'm right there, honey. They're not leaving me behind. But it is for all of you, for the fans, right around the world, for the simple reason I have been given this gift of the number of people that I've been able to help, support, listen to their stories, and then to see the number of people that come to a gig like this, and where they can actually feel comfortable and be exactly who they are, and not feel silly or afraid or picked on.
This is our tribe.
And when people come up to me and say, you know, how I got them through this, or because I do a lot of DMing with a lot of teenagers and things. I like the gift. So like with the theatre, it was the gift of giving theatre to people who didn't have it. And so, yeah.
You mentioned that you had your chat show as well.
I know.
Any tips? Asking for a friend?
You're doing very, very well.
Thank you, darling.
But you know, I was interviewing. And oh, it was lovely. A little side note to that. Sorry, I can only go on what comes into my head in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, I was at the Radio Times do, you know, because and it was all your kind of real proper people. It wasn't Doctor Who. It was real proper people. You know, BBC people.
Yeah.
That do documentaries. And the only other Doctor Who person there, which was lovely, was Jodie. Anyway, so, and Lenny Henry was hosting it, Sir Lenny Henry. And anyway, so he came up afterwards.
He's a proper Doctor Who person.
Yeah, but I said to him, he said to me, I didn't think he'd remember me from the interview, because I interviewed him. You know, because I did so many people, you know, Robson Green, Lenny Henry, Cleo Lane, Simon Pegg, Basil Brush. I was stroking Basil's tail and he got quite excited. Oh, Miss Katy. And I also used to go out with Derek Fowle, so I don't know. You should see my children. Anyway, so anyway, I went up and I said, oh, hello, you know, because he'd done a great job, and I said, and I was about to say that awful thing, oh, you don't remember me, which is, you know, you find yourself cringing when you say it. And he said, oh, it's lovely to see you again. And I said, oh, thinking he meant like Doctor Who. He said, you interviewed me. I said, how the hell did you remember that? He said, because it was the best interview I'd done in Australia. So I had, and then I did the whole of the Footballers' Wives, I did the Z-Card, I interviewed Stephen Moffat, Rob Shearman, Sylvester McCoy, I mean, you name it.
Yeah. That's brilliant.
You know, from old to young. So it was really interesting to do something like that, because what I was able to do, and why I think Lenny remembered it, is instead of asking them directly about the show that they were promoting or doing, I was able to find out more about them, like you did, you see, that's why you're very good. You find out more about what makes that person, what got them, you know, you talk to someone like Robson Green and you think, you know, how did you decide to become an actor coming from the background, etc., etc. Exactly, because it's, you know, you probably want to hear lots more about Doctor Who, but sometimes it's quite nice to know.
Yeah, exactly right.
You know.
Exactly right. That said,
Back to
because I'm conscious that we are running low on time, and I do want to give this lot a chance.
I agree.
Do we have any questions for Katy Manning? Stick your hands up. Gentleman down the front here.
I know you have some...
I know your Blur.
No,
No, but I mean, I know
But
your
not
Blur.
Oasis.
I don't mean that in a rude.
I know you've said in the past that you, I think, have chosen not to write your life story down, but certainly all of your life, but your early years leading up to Doctor Who, the snippets that we hear are so interesting, and the life that you had and have is amazing. Would you ever, because I think it would make a wonderful film, I really do. Even if the names were changed.
There's a lot of naughty bits in there.
Who would play you in a biopic of Katy Manning?
Well, I always say that people said to me, if you ever write a book, what would you call it? And I said off the top of my head, this was years ago, and I just said, naughty girls don't write books. It's been such an extraordinary life. The people that have been in my life, I mean, you know, I'm not making light of it, but you know, when you're growing up and you're just hanging out with Judy and Liza, and you know, you're all kind of kids together, and I mean, what Liza and I got up to in that Savoy hotel is beyond. I mean, you know, running up and down corridors with laundry baskets, with me like, changing shoes around at the Savoy outside. We thought we were so funny, ringing up room service and then hiding in the wardrobe. You know? And you've got all these famous people wandering around. But what it's going to just sound like a name-dropping book, you know. You start out with the sports world, then you go into this world, then you go into me as an actress world. And also, I think, I don't know that I want to live my life again. What I've done, I have great stories. I mean, I can sit here and I can tell you some of the best fabulous stories of, you know, things that have happened. If I did anything, it would have to be that rather than my life, if you see what I mean, because I don't want to live it again. I just lived it. You know, I'm living this bit now.
Yeah.
But it's the stories that come from it that I think are so wonderful. But you know, the rest, because when you write books, they all want you to go into all the bits that you don't want to tell, and that you don't want to involve people who have children or who are no longer with us by telling stories. I'm just very well aware to protect the kind of friendships that I've had. You have to be in that inner sanctum, and if you're in that inner sanctum, you can't be a fan and then bring out. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so all your Judys and things like that, it's like everybody else talks about their childhood. They'll talk about their auntie this and their uncle that. It's the same for me, only they just happen to be famous people, if you see what I mean. So I'll just keep telling the stories. You know, I mean, I think I would love to be able to just have an evening of anecdotes.
I would do that in a heartbeat.
So that would make me.
Because this 50 minutes, it's flown by, and I would do another 50 and another 50 and
And I'd be dead.
and